Tanares Adventures.
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 That is right. I have watched over 20 videos, which was over 8.5 hours worth of videos of reviews for Tanares Adventures Ultimate Edition. And I have done a summary here for you so you don't have to watch all those hours. This is a new series that I'm trying to start here that I go through and look at all the reviews and make a summary video of all the reviews. I will make some quotations of the people that I watched. I'll also put the link down below. If you don't care what I think, you could actually go down and look to see who you like. And you can look at their video to see what they think about this. But this is a great place to start, and then you can dig into everyone else's videos. So I will have all the links to every single video that I watched down in the comments below. Alright, so the overall general census is that it's an overall well-loved game. I did not see one review that had more negatives than positives. However, there's definitely some negatives, and there's definitely a lot of positives to it. So first thing I want to do is just a really quick overall brief of what this game is. This is about the third campaign for it. They have Arena of the Contest, and then they had Tanares Adventure, and now they have Ultimate Edition, which is basically those two combined. So Tanares Adventure is a dungeon crawler game. You're controlling 4 heroes to go through the adventures and quests, and each adventure is going to be a thrilling tapestry of events, decisions, puzzles, minigames, and ability tests. The result of these tests and your choices during these scenarios will ultimately usher you towards a quest. Different paths within the same adventure can lead to unique quests. In the world of Tanares, a typical day involves selecting an adventure card, embarking on a chosen adventure, and navigating its twists and turns towards a quest. And then once you assemble your quest, you'll find instructions directing you to apply a modifier before your next turn. These modifiers, found on the page immediately after the quest, provide an intriguing twist to your journey. And then after you complete each quest, your path will then diverge depending on the victory or defeat, and each outcome will lead you to the next phase, which is the city phase where you level up or enhance your heroes, or the war phase where you can reap bountiful rewards. This game does include some card play. You got cards, you got some attacks, you've got some reaction attacks, you've got some dice rolling. This game is really good if you're looking for a good RPG style type board game. Alright, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to start through this summary. I always like to start with the negatives just because it's great to end on the good things, right? So we're going to go through the negatives here. So one thing that came up quite a bit, this also is one of the pros, but a negative part is that the turns are very fluid, meaning you can react on someone else's turn, the enemies are going to react on your turn. Therefore, sometimes it can get confusing on whose turn it is because everyone is reacting at the same time a lot of the times, which once again, it can be a pro, but it can be something to keep track of, especially if you're playing solo. And that goes into the next one, is that there's a lot to keep track of and there's a lot of rules, right? There's a lot of just a little nitpicky rules within the game. They do have comrades to help that solo mode. However, using those comrades seem to not give you as much interactive play between all the characters. So it's good to make it simpler, but at the same time, it's not as interactive. So that's kind of the balance between the comrades, what people have said. The next 5 here are from Room and Board here with his 5 things of not reason to back. The first one is that the campaign does feel like it's pushing you to pay more. Therefore, you might only need the base standee or even just the 189 base pledge. The next one is always having to have 4 heroes because that means if you're playing solo, you have to keep 4. They do have the comrades, which is nice. But as I said, they sometimes might not be as interactive, so you'll have to balance that. It does have great replayability. However, if you're not going to replay this campaign, do you really need another campaign, right? Because there's great replayability, but if you're not going to do it, then why do you want all the options? The next is that there is a lot of reading. They are doing a foreteller thing, which is amazingly awesome. However, it's still a lot. That's something extra you have to buy. Therefore, do you want to read a lot or do you want to listen a lot? That is one thing. The last one that Ruin Board mentioned was that it takes up a lot of space. I mean, you can even see that the 2 storage options that they're giving in this campaign are still huge. Like each one takes up a full Calyx cube, and there's 2 of them, and that's not even everything. That's not even the dragons and everything, right? So there is so much stuff, and it will take up so much room. And to go right along with that, a lot of that is unnecessary content. Meaning, it's great to add to the table scene, but a lot of it is not necessary. Meaning, base plasma might be perfect for you if you're one that doesn't need all the fancy table stuff. Another thing is that the rulebook was kind of rough. The rulebook and the introductory and tutorial was a little rough. to get going. They should be changing that. They're revamping that, so hopefully that'll be a little bit better. And to go along with that, meaning that it's really hard to get started because there's so many rules and so much things to keep track of. However, once you get going, it's pretty fluid. It's just hard to get going. Now, this next one could be a pro or a con depending on who you are. But Alex Radcliffe stated, as Board Game Co, stated that sometimes the reaction attacks from the enemies seem non-thematic because you'll attack them, and then instead of their reaction attacking you, they're going to go through spikes and get a reaction attack from you who just attack them for them to go and attack someone else. So it's like, well, I just punched you in the face, but why are you running across spikes to go punch that? Right? So thematically, it doesn't make sense, but it's kind of part of the puzzle. So that could be a pro or a con depending on who you are. Another thing that a couple people said is that there are difficulty levels. The better you do, the harder it's going to get, and the worse you do, the easier it's going to get, which is actually really kind of a cool deal. But a lot of people said that first difficulty increase is losing one of your special attacks, which you could only use once per encounter. Therefore, it's taken away one really cool thing you could do already. So sometimes that feels too punishing and too much fun taken out of the game rather than just adding harder, more difficult monsters kind of thing. Another thing, I think they are facing this as well, but the characters, once you level them up, they just kind of seem like the Clash rather than their specific character. I think they are adding in some more stuff to change up each character so the character can increase what they are doing. However, so hopefully that will change, but we don't know how good or better it's going to be. It does use a D20 for the attacking system, therefore it can have that D20 swinginess. That might be a good thing or a bad thing, but that is something that people have talked about. And there are a lot of different colored minis within this, which is actually kind of a pro in another sense. I'll talk about that later. However, it seems like those different colored ones, the minis don't seem as high quality. That was just some opinions. I don't know the reality behind that. However, there were a couple people that stated that. Obviously, as you've seen in the campaign, it is pretty expensive. You are getting a lot of stuff, but it's an expensive start in for $189 with the miniatures, or $129, which is a little bit better, but you're getting standees, so that's kind of the toss up there with that one. King of Average did state that he thinks that the NPCs are really cool. However, he wished they were integrated more, which I don't know if they've changed that. I haven't heard anything about that. He was the only one who actually mentioned that, so I'm not exactly sure what he means by that. Another thing is that the story is a lot. There's a lot of story. However, it seems pretty straightforward, so there's not a lot of fluff to the writing, which once again, depending on your style, could be a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing to note. And then also, once you get those attack cards, there's kind of a lot to keep track with the attack cards, especially if you're playing solo and 4 different characters. All those attack cards can be kind of a lot to manage. However, it's really not too bad overall, but that is something to know as well. All right, now on to the good stuff, right? This is all what we want to know is how good is it? Is it really that good? So someone mentioned that this feels like a mixture between Gloomhaven and Sleeping Gods. So if you like both of those, this might be the game for you. So that's kind of a cool thing. I mean, I guess if you don't like those, I guess that's a con then, right? But because it's got a little bit of that card play and a little bit of that strategic story and everything. Another cool thing that has been going on is that each mission is different in each scenario. Meaning it's not always just go kill the bad guys or go kill everyone in the room. They actually have different stories where you're trying to defend the one things, or you're just trying to get around and collect all these gems or something. I don't know, I'm making all that up. But, it seems like there's more to each mission rather than just attacking. So that's kind of cool. A lot of people mentioned this, kind of what I talked about before, was the general system, the story, meaning each option that you are given, there will be consequences for choosing and not choosing each one, right? So if you choose to go attack the goblins, however, the other choice was to go and protect the city. If you go choose the goblins, the city is going to get attacked. Or if you go to try to defend the city, those goblins are going to come and overtake whatever they're going to do, right? So there are consequences to choosing and not choosing each quest, which I think is super cool. So that's a really big thing. I think everyone talked about that. This goes back to one of the cons, but the fluidity of the turns, which is really cool, especially if playing with 4 people. A lot of times with these dungeon crawlers, it just feels like you do your turn and then you sit and wait till everyone's done and then you can finally do something again. However, this game gives you a specific board that tells you these are what you could do during the other character's turn. And these are the abilities that you could do during the villain's turn. So you actually have a board just to do on other people's turn, which is super cool. The YouTuber board of it, they stated that they usually don't like dungeon crawlers. However, they were surprised that they actually liked this one. So that's to know if even if you are not wanting to dungeon crawler, this might be one for you because a lot of people have liked it, even on those who don't usually like dungeon crawlers. This also came from the kind of backside of one of the cons is the comrades. It is super nice to have those comrades, at least as an option to play solo. Therefore, you get it's basically a simplified character, so you don't have as much going on. But they kind of have some negatives because that means it's don't have as much going on, right? But with that even with those comrades, you can customize those comrades. So it's not just like, oh, here's one card and now you can't do anything with them. They do give you an option that you can kind of customize them. Obviously not as much as heroes, but they at least are customizable. One thing that was actually really cool, I've never seen this on a game, but on their villain cards, they actually printed a picture of the mini. I guess this was a problem in the first edition. I've seen this with other games. That it's like, here's this character. Now you're like, what mini? Like, it kind of looks like this one, but it also kind of looks like this one. And so you don't know which mini to actually put that on the board, which I think is actually really cool. Therefore, you could find them a lot easier. I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, they're adding this awesome storage box option. I think it's going to be great. Also, just the fact that they're giving you the option for standee. I mean, as you can see here, the standee, there's only 361 backers of the standee version versus the 1100 doing the essential 189 one with the minis. So right, it's not adding a lot, or it's not like it's like the main thing, but just having that option, I think really helps bring a lot of people in. And this is just kind of a side note. This is kind of a marketing technique actually as well, right? If you have a lower priced one and then a slightly higher priced one, people are going to go for the slightly higher priced one because like, well, why would I just get the cheap one if I could do slightly more, right? So it's like, well, why would I just go for the standee if I could just pay $60 more and get all the minis? Right? So that's also kind of I think a marketing technique. However, I do think that's awesome to give for a standee version because everything is so expensive nowadays. To give that option to get something cheap, I think is really good. A couple people mentioned that it does feel very well thought out. All the story, everything being well balanced with the missions and with your heroes, that it feels like it's not too easy, but you're not getting destroyed either. It really feels like that perfect balance between and the difficulty of it. Going back to the color of the minis, however, they might not be as detailed. It's actually kind of cool. They have basically color-coded both the enemies and the heroes. They have color-coded the heroes according to their class, so all the bruisers are going to look the same, all the tacticians are going to be the same color. I mean, unless you paint them, obviously. And then also the villains, each of the villains are going to have similar triggers for that same color. So you can say like, oh, it's the yellow one, therefore they're going to trigger when I walk past them. They're going to trigger after I miss, or right. So that's kind of helps you to keep track of stuff that they kind of color coded it. I think that's actually pretty cool. Just a couple quotes from Alex, Board Game Co. He did say that this is his #1 dungeon crawler right as of right now. He also gave it a 5 out of 5. He quoted, "Just ridiculously good." So if you mesh up with Alex's taste, I think this game is for you. Another actually kind of cool thing with the rulebook is they do have an index on the back of it, which actually can be super handy when you're trying to look up rules, that you could actually just look at the index, which an index is going to be anytime that word is mentioned, it's going to give you that page number to where to find it. It's not just going to give you one place where it might talk about it. It's going to give you every place where it talks about that subject that you're looking for. A lot of people talked about how cool the minis are. I think this is another cool thing, is that you get residual damage, meaning even if you miss, you still do some damage, which I think is incredible. It kind of takes away a little bit from that swinginess, because at least you still do something than a complete nothing. I really like that idea. As I talked about before, it is a very expansive world, therefore it's much more compelling story-wise because there's a lot of stuff going on. Also talked about before, a really great replay value because there are 101 quests, yet one campaign you're only going through 22. So each time you play, you might play 20 different quests every campaign that you play for the first like 5 times, right? So I think that's really cool, really, really great replayability. A lot of people, I think everyone talked about how amazing the art is in the game. As you can see through the page, it really looks awesome. A couple of people did talk about that this is probably the closest dungeon crawler board game that you could get to an RPG because of the way that the combat works, because of the story and the choices and how they actually affect everything you do, not only the story wise, but also change what you're doing in the battle. Gaming Geek stated that it's a D&D in a box, right? So it makes it, if you like RPG, but you don't have a GM, will be a perfect introduction game for you trying to get into board games. That's a good option for you. And the last thing is the customization of the heroes. That really feels like the upgrading and everything is very rewarding, and it really gives a lot to the game. So the next section, what I usually do is I usually like to say is who is backing, meaning out of the people I watched, who is and who is not backing that campaign or the Kickstarter. However, with this one being a reprint, pretty much everyone that I watched already had it. That's why they were reviewing the game, right? Because they had already played it. So I'm pretty sure everyone that I did is getting the upgrade kit. Even the $30 one, I mean, that's a good value just to upgrade your thing. Now, what is necessary and at what level should you back? So we're going to go here. If you're a returning backer, upgrade credit, I think $35 is a no-brainer. Everything that they were doing is only increasing how good the game is. Should you wait until this comes? Probably not. But I think getting that, I mean, $35 to get all the different books and all the different things that they're upgrading, I think is super, super good. $35, no question, if you're returning back. $89, that is what's going to give you that storage box. I mean, it is $50 more for mainly for that box. However, I think, I mean, look here. I mean, you got almost 4,000 backers doing that one versus 300, right? Because I think that's actually really cool. Also, getting that new cardboard world map, the city and world phase, I think that's awesome there as well. For new backers, standee versus the essential gameplay. Do you need the essential gameplay? Absolutely not. The standee version, however, it does not give you the option to play PvP as the essential gameplay will. Standee does not give you the option to play PvP. However, it still gives you the 100 missions. It still gives you the incredible amount of options. So if you're just like, hey, I want to try this game out, standee version is perfect for you. There's no absolute need to go to more. Now, if you're a mini lover, if you love to have those physical presence in the board in front of you, the essential gameplay is not a bad pick for you either. It's still going to give you everything you need to play. It does give you the option of for PvP where the standee doesn't. Anyways, not a bad choice either. This is where it gets a little rough. It goes from $189 to $489. $300 is the next step. So it's not even like you could just go up a little bit for the next step. I mean, obviously, you can do add-ons in the Pledge Manager. So it does give you the two awesome storage boxes as well as the Legendary Box and the Penumbral Pack, which the Penumbral Pack comes with these 5 boxes from the other campaigns. So you are getting a lot more for it. You know, just the Legendary Box is another $120. Just the Penumbral Pack is another $130, and then the boxes, which are like another $70 by themselves. So you're getting a good deal in that sense, right? You're saving $107. However, do you need this? Absolutely not. If you're a first comer, if you don't know if you like this game, you don't need this much stuff, because you could play everything just fine without all these additives and these storage options. However, if you are one that you know you're going to like this game, or you played with a friend and you want everything, this is probably going to be your best thing, because it's going to give you that storage box as well as basically all gameplay stuff, other than the dragons and that big eye thing. I don't know what they call it. Because then, basically another $200, you can then get everything with all the dragons, and the Madness box, and the Gold Dragon, and the Penumbral Tarask. Tarask, as someone mentioned in my other video. So if you want everything that is the $650, and then obviously they do have the painted one, which is actually kind of cool. However, one thing to note is that is only these big miniatures that are painted, right? These are the only ones that are painted, so don't expect all, 200 miniatures to be painted. It's just these bigger ones that come painted. So that's just a big caveat there. It does state that, but I just want to make sure people see that. So there you have it. If you like this condensed summary version, please go ahead and subscribe and comment down below what game you would like me to do next, what you want to see reviewed. If there's some summary games that you like, please let me know. I'll go ahead and do that for you. Please like and subscribe this channel, and I will see you later.